The planetary systems of stars other than the Sun and the Solar System are a staple element in much science fiction. Overview. The notion that there might be inhabited extrasolar planets can be traced at least as far back as Giordano Bruno, who, in his De l'Infinito Universo e Mondi, declared that there are then innumerable suns, and an infinite number of Earths revolve around those suns, if not exactly as our own, and if not more nobly, at least no less inhabited and no less nobly. Allusions to inhabitants of other stars' planetary systems remained rare in literature for some centuries thereafter. One of these is found in Voltaire's Micromegas, which features a traveler from Sirius. As science fiction became established in the early 20th century, destinations such as the Moon, Mars, Venus, and other bodies within the Solar System began to seem stale. Authors invoked a variety of mechanisms for superluminal travel and placed the stories on worlds in planetary systems around other stars, an innovation that gave them the freedom to construct exotic fictional planets and themes. This tendency became predominant once the exploration of the Solar System was complete enough to conclusively demonstrate the unlikelihood of any highly developed form of extraterrestrial life here, aside from humans on Earth. Although some of the stars named in works of science fiction are purely imaginary, many authors and artists have preferred to use the names of real stars that are well known to astronomers, and indeed the lay public, either because they are notably bright in the sky or because they are relatively close to Earth. Planetary romances. The fictional genres that appear in the list below include films, television serials, interactive games, and print. Of all these, the print medium, specifically novels and novellas, are of note because they are often planetary romances. Any science fiction tale whose primary venue is a planet and whose plot turns on the nature of the planet can be described as a planetary romance. It is not enough that the story simply be set on a world. For example, James Blish's A Case of Conscience is set on the planet Lithia, but it is not a planetary romance because the nature and description of this world has little bearing on the story being told. And in the hard science fiction novels by Hal Clement and Robert L. Forward, the worlds on which they are set amount to little more than the sum of the physical and logical problems that they illustrate, and that the protagonists solve. In the true planetary romance, the world itself encompasses and survives the tale that temporarily illuminates it. One seminal practitioner of the planetary romance was Edgar Rice Burroughs, as for example in his Barsoom series. However, as with most writers of his era, his settings did not extend beyond the Solar System, and so his work is not found in this article. General uses of star names. Stars may be referred to in fictional works for the metaphorical or mythological associations, or else as points of light in the sky of Earth, but not as locations in space or centers of planetary systems. The Iliad, epic poem attributed to Homer, the Greek poet, describes the final approach of the Greeks' shining warrior, Achilles, toward Troy by comparing him to the dazzling star Sirius. Oedipus Rex, play by Sophocles. In Scene IV, the Corinthian shepherd describes keeping his flocks alongside those of the Theban shepherd all during 3 distant summers, from spring till Rose Arcturus. He is trying to stimulate the band's memory about their long acquaintance before a fateful event, the band's entrusting the infant Oedipus to him, to be raised in Corinth, rather than killing the child as instructed by King Laius of Thebes. Metamorphoses, Latin narrative poem by Ovid. The Roman poet describes the apotheosis of the murdered Julius Caesar as Caesar's comet, possibly the brightest daylight comet in recorded sordid history. Kindly Venus, although seen by none, stood in the middle of the Senate House, and caught from the dying limbs and trunk of her own Caesar his departing soul. She did not give it time so that it could dissolve in air, but bore it quickly up toward all the stars of heaven, and on the way, she saw it gleam and blaze and set it free. Above the moon it mounted into heaven, leaving behind a long and fiery trail, and as a star it glittered in the sky. Julius Caesar, play written by William Shakespeare. In Act 3, Scene I, Cassius petitions Caesar to reverse a banishment, but Caesar proclaims his steadfastness, comparing himself to the star Polaris. But I am constant as the northern star, of whose true fixed and resting quality there is no fellow in the firmament. Polaris. Short story by H.P. Lovecraft. The narrator experiences a series of increasingly substantial dreams about Olathe, a city of marble lying on a plateau between two peaks, with the malign presence of Polaris ever watching in the night sky. At the end of the story, he is convinced that his waking life is not real but a dream from which he cannot awaken. Mary Poppins, novel by P. L. Travers. One of Mary Poppins's unusual acquaintances, a personified star Maya, arrives in London to do some Christmas shopping for the other stars in the Pleiades. Justine, the first volume in Lawrence Durrell's Alexandria quartet of novels, its fourth paragraph describes the effect of Arcturus, the brightest star in the northern sky, on the narrator's somber ruminations. The True Love, Aubrey Materie novel written by Patrick O'Brien. Jack Aubrey establishes his ship's longitude in the Pacific Ocean without the aid of a marine chronometer by taking two beautiful lunar s, the one on Mars, the other on Fomalhaut. Dream, The Heart of a Star, Chapter 3 of Neil Gaiman's graphic novel The Sandman, Endless Nights. Mizar appears as a female of blue flame. She is the hostess of an assembly of various cosmic entities, and the creator of the palace where they meet.